With a former WWE star arrested twice in a week and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for August 30th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. During his interview with Ryan Satin on Out of Character, Finn Balor spoke about wrestling through the pandemic, saying it was the most mentally challenging period of my life without question. Not anything to do with work, it was all like personal stuff. Being landlocked here in the US, I was also dealing with some visa issues too, which couldn't get resolved because I was landlocked in the US because of COVID. You gotta go back and do it in the embassy in Ireland, so couldn't do that. My wife got dragged into that same situation because she's on my visa. It was super challenging. My dad had been sick. I couldn't see my dad. Couldn't see my brothers and sisters. Their kids just grew up. They were infants, and they weren't even born, and now they're like full-grown humans. It was a tough time. With former WWE writer Vince Russo recently claiming on his podcast that he's been secretly working as a consultant for the USA Network for Raw from Mania 2020 to March of this year, Ringside News has reported that Vince Russo claimed the USA Network hired him to consult for Raw. We were told a few ended up on the phone with WWE lead writers. Russo was certainly not one of those people. Also, if Vince Russo was a consultant, it was a waste of USA's money. On his Click This podcast, Kevin Nash revealed advice he gave to John Cena when it came to his baggy shirts. When they would hand out the NWO shirts, guys would be like, give me a medium, because they'd want it skin tight. I'd always tell them to give me a 3X or the biggest I could get, because I told John Cena, and he asked me for advice, and I said always wear a baggy t-shirt, especially if you're not going to work in it, because when you take it off, there's that that guy's got a good physique, as opposed to having a t-shirt sprayed on you. If you look throughout his career, he always wore the oversized t-shirt. I think when you really look at his entire career, that's probably the most important thing, that big t-shirt. With former WCW star Buff Bagwell recently falling on hard times, Diamond Dallas Page has taken to YouTube to explain the situation. Hey guys, a lot of you may be aware of the fact that I've been working with Marcus Bagwell over the last 8 or 9 months on a project that we've started. It's a docu-series called Change or Die. It means different things to different people. Marcus didn't have a weight loss problem. He was heavy at the time, but he didn't have a weight loss problem. He didn't have borderline diabetes. What he had was an addiction that he could mask really well, and most people who have addictions can do that. Over this period, had some ups and downs, and for the most part, he was doing really well, but a lot of times with addiction, it has everything to do with the people you hang out most with. And when he's with us, like our whole force is about positive reinforcement, a place you can be safe. When he goes outside of that, well, those people, they don't really care about that, or they think they do, but they really don't. And your friends, the people who are around you, are like an elevator. They can bring you up or they can bring you down. Now, because of some of the negative influences in Mark's life, and I'm talking about people who love him and enable him, he's had a relapse. So we had a meeting with all my people and Marcus, and we all agreed that it was time for him to go to a rehab facility. It's going to be hard, I know, because I've dealt with this before again and again, and I keep swearing I'm never doing it again. But we've been together for 30 years, me and this cat, and I really want to see him get to the other side. Now, we don't know how long Marcus is going to be at the rehab facility, but he's in a really positive mindset. I mean, the best I've ever heard him, and he's really taking what we were teaching him and applying it there, and he's actually enjoying it right now. And eventually, he's going to get out. But one of the reasons I'm doing this is because there's going to be a lot of appearances that needed to be canceled, which will be kicking back up again once he gets out. But in the meantime, he needs to take care of himself. Addiction. We all know someone who's fighting it, and it's a tough place. And I'm really hoping that you guys can support him when he gets up. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. When asked about Matt Hardy previously managing his tag team in AEW, one half of Private Party, Isiah Kassidy, told NBC Sports Boston, "I think it helps 100%. You know, a lot of people on the internet, they're gonna say, man, Private Party, their career went down because of Matt Hardy. For me personally, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for Quinn as well, I feel like Matt Hardy helped us a lot. Matt Hardy is my guy. I would love for him to take us under his wing, because eventually I want to be in the Hardys' place. I want to have a career exactly like them." Talking to Headlock about the future of Ring of Honor under Tony Khan, AEW's Christopher Daniels said, "We're in the process of finding a television venue for Ring of Honor. We're not sure if that's going to be a part of Warner Media or a separate entity, but whatever we do, we're going to keep the name Ring of Honor alive in professional wrestling." I was very happy to hear that Tony Khan purchased ROH. I was very disappointed that the pandemic sort of hit ROH very hard. I think it's going to be a matter of what roster we have for Ring of Honor versus the roster of AEW, but I foresee in the future great opportunities to do AEW versus ROH, possibly guys traveling from both companies going back and forth. During a segment on Raw last night with Bianca Belair in the ring with Asuka and Alexa Bliss, a fan can be seen holding a sign that says, "We want Naomi, not Sasha Banks." A video taken by a fan on Twitter shows a security guard jumping the barricade and confiscating said sign. While the return of Sasha Banks and Naomi is reportedly a done deal, it remains to be seen when they come back. With him being released from WWE following accusations from the Speaking Out movement, Velveteen Dream has been going through a rough patch, as Ringside News wrote that Patrick Clark was arrested for battery and trespassing on August 20th, 2022. He posted bond of $1,200 last Monday and had a handwritten plea of not guilty. In addition to the August 20th arrest, Velveteen Dream was also booked on August 26th for an out-of-county warrant for drug possession. So, to sum it up, he was booked on the 20th and then again on the 26th. Officer Carlos Rivera of the Altamonte Springs Police Department testified regarding his arrest of Velveteen Dream on the 26th. Sitting inside, I observed a black male later identified as Patrick Clark, who was speaking with PFC Belt. Clark provided his Maryland driver's license and vehicle information to PFC Belt, who then walked back to his patrol vehicle. I remained on the passenger side door, keeping a visual of Clark to maintain officer safety. While standing outside the passenger door, I observed Clark pull a small clear baggie containing a white powdery substance out of his wallet. Clark proceeded to open the baggie, placing the white powdery substance on the right side of his left hand in a line pattern. Based on my training and experience, I recognized the white powdery substance to be cocaine. At that time, Clark began to sniff the white powdery substance up his nose. I began to wave PFC Belt over to the vehicle for assistance. I then began to tell Clark to drop the baggie and to place his hands in the air. During this time, Clark was attempting to conceal the small clear baggie in between the driver's seat and center console, with white powdery substance spilling on the driver's seat as well as his person. Clark then exited the vehicle and was placed in agency-issued handcuffs for further investigation. Based on the above information, I find probably cause to charge Clark with possession of cocaine when I observed Clark sitting in the driver's seat snorting a white powdery substance, which field testing positive for cocaine from a small plastic baggie, and destroying evidence when Clark attempted to ingest the cocaine in the plastic baggie as he believed law enforcement was no longer able to observe his actions. This was an attempt to deceive law enforcement. Clark was placed in agency-issued handcuffs that were checked for proper fit and double-locked. He was then transported to the Seminole County Jail for further processing. The cocaine was weighed on an agency-calibrated scale, showing bag weight of 0.1 grams. It was then dropped into evidence. On the Two-Man Power Trip podcast, Austin Aries addressed allegations made against him a couple of years back, claiming Rhett Titus' girlfriend kissed his testicles. Rhett Titus, a student of mine, did a shoot interview some years back. He talked about a scenario where his girlfriend was in the locker room, and I'll just say it, she kissed my balls. What do you want me to tell you? It happened. I'm not going to run from the facts. The facts are, she kissed my balls. She did it willingly. She did it. I would almost say gleefully. Maybe a little too gleefully, right? There's a whole story and context behind it. She was putting kisses on all the wrestlers with her lipstick. She didn't really belong in the locker room, but she was going to accompany him to the ring that night. She was getting a little flirtatious in the locker room. I kind of told her to kind of knock it off, cut it out, this isn't high school, and that she needs to act a certain way if she's going to be in here. I told her this isn't high school, and if you keep talking like that and acting like that, somebody is going to call your bluff. She said to me, well, who says I'm bluffing? My response, and we can debate if it was the correct response or not, but my left testicle came out and I said, well, put your money where your mouth is, expecting that at this point she would maybe realize that this was serious. To my surprise, she actually kissed my testicle. So I had to go show Rhett like, hey man, you might want to corral your girl over here because she's acting a little inappropriate. So that story resurfaced, and then of course, the headline is Austin Aries forces woman to kiss his balls, and Austin Aries admits to that's not what happened. Nobody was forced. Nobody was coerced. Nobody was pressured. Nobody was tricked. You know, she did this. She was an adult, and she made a choice to do this. But again, you take all these things and people wanting to believe a certain narrative about me, so then that got mischaracterized as something that it wasn't. So you add all these things up and I'm a terrible, terrible human being. Because even though we know pro wrestling isn't real, we know that Austin Aries is really a terrible human being in real life, even though most people have never met me in real life. So they have no idea who I am or who I'm not. They're basing it off of things they read on the internet, which may or may not be true, or may not come from a certain perspective that has a bias. But that's the world we live in, so I've accepted that. People are going to believe what they want about me. And it's no longer my job to try to change people's opinions, because that a lot of times ends up being futile, and you'll just drive yourself nuts because people are going to believe what they want to believe. That's just the world we live in. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.